My name is Dallas Yellowfly. I'm from the Siksika Nation, and I'm a storyteller with Three Crows Productions. In 2002, I began working in Aboriginal education as a youth care worker, and I noticed quickly in classrooms there was this void. People weren't talking about this complex issue, about how the Indian Act and residential schools affected Indigenous people today. My dad went to a residential school, and the abuse that he suffered as a child, he brought home with him, and he grew up on a reserve. And not a lot of people talk about that trauma. And years later, my dad went to jail because of the violent ways he was taught to solve problems. What shocked me the most was how quickly vulnerable kids related to my story, and how intergenerational abuse isn't really talked about. So I asked permission from my elders to share this new story called Qwalena, where I would use a mask and multimedia to create this scary story. The story is an allegory of the Indian agents who stole children from their families and brought them to a residential school. Then I talk about the mask, and I also talk about the abuse that happened in my living room, in front of strangers, crowds, because I think they need to hear the message. I think it's important for youth to learn from an Indigenous perspective, regardless of their cultural background. And I think bringing Indigenous communities and non-Indigenous communities together is equally important. But regardless of their cultural background, to understand that you should not tolerate abuse. I think Qwalena opens up valuable conversations, and it gets youth talking about what's going on in their lives and maybe seek support. And I think conversations between vulnerable youth and adults that they trust, that's important for them to create a better life. And those conversations otherwise might never happen.